So I'm not quite sure what we'll do. But I don't believe the doing at this point is particularly important. I think what is very important is that each of us, at the end of the 5 days, is more capable of experiencing a higher state of consciousness, a more awakened condition, a condition where we're not projecting our own stuff onto everything that we see and hear, and where we actually can become what we intend to become, which is a spiritual person. And I know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. I have no idea if any of us are going to be enlightened or not enlightened, or if all of you are enlightened at this point and just kind of humoring me. But we are here, and there is a certain energy that is magnified by having a group like this, and there'll be even more people coming. And I feel like many of you have, in one way or another, had time and energy spent on the spiritual path. Doesn't matter what path it is, really. And I look around and I see a lot of us are getting to the latter point of life. Some of us are not, thank God. And it's important that we become more capable as human beings, able to hold on to spirit and spiritual energy, and that we become more capable of directing that energy in a conscious way, in a way that is attuned with the unseen beings that are around us all the time that we're so unaware of. It's really important that we learn how to be a human being, and that we begin to use the gifts that are inherent in every human being, and that so few people actually use. It's important that we learn how to affect our attitude about life, because life doesn't change. The only thing that changes is our attitude. We have no control over anything else except what we perceive. You know, the last words of the Buddha, as a thing is viewed, so it appears. And I see so many people now viewing life with such pessimism and darkness, and in doing so, we keep creating pessimism and darkness. And it's just so unwise and so not human. That's not what we're destined to do. So we said on the flyer, which I actually read this afternoon, that, but I wrote it, but I hadn't read it since I wrote it. Did I write that? Yeah, thank you. Okay. That we were going to do practice, and I'll explain this word practice in a moment. We're going to do practice for a more conscious relationship with ourselves and with our planet. It doesn't take millions of people to affect the consciousness of the whole planet. It's not an election process. It's not a question of the 100th monkey, even though I like the story, but it's really not. It is our ability to become more than what we are at this moment. And as we become more than what we are, ourselves to focus our attention, our concentration on God, whatever that means to you. You can put in any word you like. It doesn't matter at this point. if our focus and concentration is continually on our self, and I really mean our limited self, our daily life, then you will die as unhappy as you live. And that's not a threat. That's just reporting the news. If your life is spent, your energy is spent, and your focus is spent on becoming more evolved, more human, more capable of being both a repository and a conduit for spiritual energy, then forget about dying happy, you'll actually live happy. And what does it take? Well, does it take having the right external circumstances? No. Everybody here, I know, has enough to eat and enough warmth and, enough of the material world. We have enough. If you want to have more, you can have more, but it's not going to make anybody happier. If you want to have less, you can have less, but that's not going to make anybody happier either. We have what we have. What we don't have is a healthy relationship with our own ego. We don't have a healthy relationship with our mind. It just runs amok and it thinks whatever it feels like thinking, regardless of how reactive or not connected to reality our thinking is. We don't have a healthy relationship with the global consciousness. There is a global soul and a global mind, and that is just words. But when you become part of it, when you tune into it, suddenly your own individual endeavors seem to take on less importance, and the heart naturally becomes lighter. I don't like to sound preachy, and I listen to myself as I speak, and I can hear it, and I'm going, oh, Shahabuddin, shut up. Don't do this, making people afraid of death and so on. But I do feel that these times, forgive me, are no more difficult than other times we've had, and no more difficult than times that'll happen in the future. These times are just these times, and because we're living in them, we think this is the worst possible time for planet Earth. Some of you, I'm going to venture to guess, were alive in adult form in the 60s. We used to think the same thing, that it was the Earth was on the precipice, it was the worst possible time, everything was going to hell, and we better get out there, and which we did. And then there was the 70s, and then there was the 80s, and then there's this war, which we've already forgotten about, and that one, which we've forgotten about, and these disasters, which we've already forgotten about. And now we're living in this time that is the worst possible time, and the world's ending, and so on. This is not the worst time. Look at during the times of the plagues in Europe, for example, over 50 or 60% of the population as a whole were wiped out. Whole villages and cities were wiped out. It's as if in Rochester you woke up tomorrow morning and there would be 10,000 people living and everybody else was dead. And life is what it is, and was what it was, and will be what it will be. So, yeah, we're going through transformation. Thank God. Really, thank God. Nothing can just stagnate. As soon as there's stasis, there's death. And that goes for our individual life, and it goes for our life as a community, and it goes for our life as a global entity. So what is going on? Well, what's going on in me, because that's all I know, is that I'm every day becoming more and more part of you. I experience that. Because I experience that, I have experiences of that. What does that mean? Well, I know more about what people are thinking. I know more about what people are feeling. I know more about what people mean by the sound of their voice rather than the words that they're saying. I know more about what's coming tomorrow, and I'm not so fixated on today. I also know that keeping the not the idea of God, but the actual presence of God, so that you kind of feel it all the time in the body. So you feel this shiver of energy going through, becomes more and more and more. And you feel this presence. And as you feel that, the attachment to this life that we're given, if you're spiritually healthy, and if you're not too neurotic, begins to take over in a very positive and powerful way. And then you're not living your life for what others may think of you anymore. You're living your life for this very real relationship between myself, my inner being, and yourself and God. And that's what becomes real, and that's what becomes important. Because of that, you try and be a kind person, and the odd thing is the more you try and be kind, the more it seems to hurt other people. Because it takes training to learn how to live with a bit of consciousness. It takes training to actually find out, what is my own feeling? What do I need as a person of spirit? Not what do I need as the fruit of my conditioning? What do I need because this is the way I was brought up? What do I need because this person told me or that person told me? But what do I really need to become my own being? Because when we become that, we become everybody else. And until we become that, we're stuck in this kind of swamp of limited self. And it's not fun after a while. Then we become cynical and we become bitter, and the world's a terrible place, and this path or that path is terrible, and God is some mean creature in the clouds who's not giving me what I want, and God becomes a he again, And it's just this fantasy that we make up in our minds like little babies, to take the step and be the spiritual person and see what happens. We have this idea that having some spiritual awakening or spiritual awareness is like insurance, that's going to make things wonderful. Well, it's not. You could have terrible moments, but you know that you're having a terrible moment. And it becomes a moment, not an eternity. So, how can we do this? Well, quite frankly, I'm only here for 5 days. So all I can do is share tools. And they're not new tools. Many of you know the tools, but the energy is new. Because we're going with a certain confidence that the proper ingredients cooked in the right way will produce a very delicious dish. And I have a personal goal. I would like, for better or for worse, I would like everybody here to be happier. That's my goal. Not to, have these incredible experiences, because I believe you'll have them. If you follow a path and if you allow yourself to be happy, you'll have the experiences. They are something that is offered by God to every human being. But happiness is a very misunderstood word. You ask somebody, what would it take to make you happy? Well, if I had a roof over my head, and if I had a little bit of money, and if I had some food, I'd be happy. Well, that's not true. I mean, most people have a roof over their head, and they have a little bit of food, and usually they have money coming in from Social Security or something every month, or maybe standing on a street corner with a sign. Are they happy? No. Then there are people who think, well, if I had this amount of money, like these billionaires, that I'd be happy. Are they happy? No. I know people who actually have billions of dollars. Are they happier because of the money? No. Do they have a different life? Sure. They have a very different life. Are they happier? No. So what is it that brings happiness? Really, what is it? Well, there are a few things that bring happiness. One is a healthy relationship with somebody. I don't mean a marriage. I don't mean a family. That could be the relationship. I don't mean a friendship, but it could be a friendship. But a healthy relationship with one other human being. If you're lucky, maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 8. Does that mean your whole family has to be normal? I haven't met them yet. I don't know if that's going to happen on this planet. We're all aliens from different planets and stars and everything. You don't have to go into outer space and look for UFOs. Just look around the room. We're all from other realities, and here we are in this one. This is a very special, unique reality. So what can make us happy? Well, healthy relationships without projection. Does that mean there won't be problems? Of course there's going to be problems. There's always problems. That's part of life. But a healthy relationship helps. Awareness of our physical body. So that we talk, what's the bonging? Oh, maybe you could turn it off, Tara. Oh, well then don't turn it off. We'll live with the bonging. It's okay with me. I just like to know what it is. A healthy relationship with your body is kind of an interesting thing because it's not you telling your body, it's finally your body telling you. It really helps, and it requires a bit of work. The body is really trying to be our host. It is this vehicle that has been created out of the stuff of planet Earth, with a little bit of cosmic energy thrown in for spice, and the body is there to allow us to experience life on Earth. And the body has inherent intelligence. It knows if we listen to it. But if we don't listen to it, it doesn't know, and after a while, just like any other person, the body stops speaking because it begins to feel, what's the point? Nobody listens to me anyway. Why should I even say what should be done? And then when that happens, the light of life begins to withdraw from the body, and the body no longer becomes our vehicle, and in many cases becomes our enemy. So happiness comes from a healthy relationship with our body. The other relationship that is important is not our relationship with God, because we all mean something different when we say God anyway. And I was backing up my computer today, and I saw something that I wrote 10 years ago. And it was just really clear. I said, everybody has a definition of God. Not one of our definitions is correct. And yet we all believe that we have a relationship with God. So we have a relationship with a being that we don't really know what that being is. And so we create a relationship, and a lot of it is fiction. Just read the newspapers. You see that a lot of what people are calling God, it's just fiction, a construct of mind. So that's why I'm not saying a relationship with God for happiness. That comes automatically if you have the others going well. So what's the last one? Last one is 2 parts. we need to be able to have a healthy relationship with our mind. I know some of you have heard this ad nauseum, so that the mind becomes our servant. We don't become the servant of our mind. And secondarily, we need to be able to feel. More than anything else that I've said, we need to be able to feel. And what does that mean? That means to really feel everything that we need to feel at every level of feeling. So on a simple level, if something is sentimental, we need to be able to take that moment to cry at the commercial or whatever it is. Do they still have commercials? I haven't watched TV for a long time. Online they have plenty of commercials, I see that. But we need to be able to just take the regular, mundane feelings of being a human being and allow ourselves to feel them, knowing full well these are not particularly deep feelings. These are just kind of surface feelings, but I have to be able to feel them. I can't block them. Once we begin to feel them consciously, we can ask ourselves and train ourselves, and we'll do some of that this few days. How do I feel deeper feelings?